Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. It is full-time Reds number 2 for the season. It's finished at Anfield, Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 1. I'm your host, Matt. Joining me again is Kev. Kev,
afternoon, everyone.
Off to a winning start at home. Get the home campaign started on the right foot.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was an eventful game. There's a hell of a lot in it, but ultimately 3 points and a lot of positives as well as some negatives to come out of it, which is kind of what we were expecting. But ultimately, I don't give a shit. Got 3 points. We're off the mark, and it's a side that we have to be beaten, especially at home. And yeah, look, get into it, but my God, I was shitting a brick after the first 5 minutes. I was like, who's after drugging the lads in the dressing room? Like, what the fuck was all that about? That was insane.
Yes, we will.
Absolutely nuts.
We will definitely be having a pretty good little discussion about exactly what the hell happened to start that game off. But
yeah, I'm blaming. I think they were on drugs, or else they met Gavin Emmett for a pint and they were half cut.
Yeah,
one of the two. They had to run it out the system.
Be an amazing live show that Gav did over there with Alexis McAllister drinking spicy mates or whatever it is. But yeah, before we get started, everybody that's here and watching with us, thank you very much for joining us. Please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the show. Hit the notification bell because I believe Gav's going to have a couple more kind of impromptu live shows from the heart of Liverpool while he's over there this weekend. So to make sure you don't miss any shows, just make sure you got that notification bell clicked on. And we can just get right into it. I mean, before we get started, Kev, you said, it's a must-win game, and I couldn't agree with that anymore. Like, I've really started to break the season down into the blocks of games that you're going to play, and I'm of the firm belief that if you take 48 or more points off of the 60 available points against what will be the worst half of the league, you stand in really good stead. I mean, if you get 48, 50 points out of those 60, you've got 1 foot in the top 4 already, and that's our bare minimum for this season. And then that's a platform that you can build off of. We did not do that last year. Lost away to Bournemouth, lost at home to Leeds, lost away to Forest. You cannot be having a good season if you're losing those games. So this was 100% a must-win game.
Yeah.
The lineup comes out. We're completely unchanged. Same 11 rolls over from Chelsea. The Bournemouth lineup, I didn't watch your game last week. I don't know what changes were made in it. Not a lot of names in there that I'm super familiar with.
There was a few. They brought in Semenyo for Brooks, and I think they made one other change as well. But in general, the players that they brought in, I watched their highlights last week, and I remember watching Klopp's press conference, and he was talking about the manager and the difference in the Bournemouth that we faced last year, and you could tell a mile away from today what Bournemouth are going to be about going forward this season. It's those front four are going to be at you, they're going to nag you, they're going to press you, going to force mistakes, and they're going to turn the ball over high up the pitch and try to do something from there. It was really it was a typical performance from the players that they put out the pitch, and they're not done yet. They've got more business to be done as well. I think it looks like they're going to get the man in from Leeds, Tyler Adams, which is going to be another bit of a pressing machine. So, you know what I mean? We'll see. Like I said last week after the Chelsea game, we'll see after 8-10 games we'll be able to put these points into context after 8 to 10 games. But right now, that was the start from Bournemouth I was expecting when I saw the lineup. So I thought, yeah, they're going to be right at us, right in our faces. If we're not at it, if we're not on it and sharp and give them the respect that they deserve, we're going to get punished. And we duly did.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the only other things before we just get into the game, Stefan Bajcetic on the bench for Liverpool. So that's good to see that he's that further step on his road to recovery. I was fully expecting it to be Thiago making it onto the bench instead of Bajcetic. And then, of course, we'll come on to him a lot later. New man, Wataru Endo, gets on the bench with his brand new number 3 shirt there. So fantastic. Home debuts for Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai as well, too. So 50 seconds in. 50 seconds in.
50 seconds in, we played an offside trap, and the offside trap worked.
It did.
That doesn't matter because it was offside. But
except for what happens in the instant when that player breaks through and the ball goes into the back of the net and you've soiled yourself because you barely been settled down watching it. You're certainly.
I knew it was offside. Yeah, no, it looked off. It just looked off, and Trent was chasing after him. If someone is getting that far away from your defender, or your centre back in that short space of time, either he's bang on level and he's timed his run perfectly and he's already on the move, or he's offside. And once you're chasing like that, you're going to have it was a missed touch from Trent that played it into. It was almost a panic zone with Virgil coming across, Alisson coming out, and there was a clusterfuck of what happened. And the ball ended up in the back of the net, but it was offside. But that was the warning. That was what Klopp was drilling into him all week, and what he would have said before they left the dressing room. They're going to be at you for the first 5 minutes. Make sure your passes are accurate to feet, not dibbly, bouncing balls into somebody and giving them with 3 or 4 players to make a turnaround. Don't be stupid in the first 5 minutes. And then we went and did it again.
Yeah, it was about what 100 seconds later, 150 seconds later.
It was in the third minute.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes in, so 50 seconds and 150 seconds. So 100 seconds apart, we go and do basically exactly the same thing. Virgil fizzes the ball into Trent, who's got players around him, and a terrible touch from Trent. The ball pops out to Solanke. Solanke drives through. Robbo and Van Dijk actually do a pretty good job of closing down on Solanke and negating that chance. And then the ball falls to Semenyo and a rocket of a shot. And
that was a good finish.
Yeah, Alisson barely had time to react. It feels like real karma for me having a childish giggle at the fact that if you mispronounce his name, it's Semenyo, and then the ball's in the back of the net, and it's 1-0 to Bournemouth. And it was the biggest worry for me in those first 10, 15 minutes was Alisson's positioning just seemed all over the map. Like you saw it for both the offside chance and the actual goal itself, where is he coming? Is he going? And then the ball just falls to them. But it's simple mistakes and simple errors. And we were saying in the WhatsApp group of to me, it's reminiscent of last season where you couldn't make simple little passes around the corner, building up from the back. We looked so shaky and we were our own worst enemy. And, again, an early goal, I could take the pages out of this year's full-time Reds notebook and just put it into the first half of last year's, where in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, we do something stupid that gives a goal away.
Yeah. Alisson has these kind of blonde brain fart games. Probably usually has about 2 a year. Mm-hmm. He has 2 a season. That was one today. Because for that first half, he was an absolute disaster. Yeah, he was devoid of confidence. His passing was shocking. His touch was awful. And that transmitted across everybody. Because there was another point later on in the half where the ball came over the top and Trent logically passed it back to Ali. And he'll clear it. And he didn't. He turned and blind hoofed it because he didn't want to give it back to Alisson. That shouldn't be happening. But that's happening because of how poor Alisson was with the ball at his feet in that first half. Abysmal. But he had a couple of those last year. He has a couple of them all the time.
Yep.
They're not machines. So look, forgive him that. The first 10 minutes was absolute train wreck. But every time we got the ball and got forward, we were alive. It was like watching 2 different teams. And you look at right the way through the first half, we dominated the ball. We created chances left, right, and centre. After the first 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, once we settled down, that was the end of Bournemouth as a threat for the rest of that half. They'd done absolutely nothing. Yeah. And it was then it was just a case of, okay, get the first one. And Jonathan said it was like watching Rodgers and early Klopp when we were creating our own problems. It was exactly that for the first 10 minutes. But then, second, probably for about the last 30 minutes and a half, completely bossed it. And it was to me, it was the case of when. something is going to happen. We were getting joy from set pieces. We were having corner after corner after corner. Virgil was getting on the end of him. Konate was getting on the end of him. And eventually something was going to fall because you don't create that many good chances with that quality around there that something isn't going to work. But it seemed like the midfield as well had a rocket up them in ball retention. And Szoboszlai was, wow.
Yeah,
he was ridiculous, wasn't he? He was ridiculous.
I've saved a fair few comments about Szoboszlai, and I think we're going to end up waxing pretty lyrical about him. But you mentioned up until about the 15-minute mark, and I noted it when it happened in the game, that Gakpo got the ball in the middle, and he drove straight up through the middle of the park, and he forced Semenyo to take a yellow card, pulling him down on it. And that was about the first time that one of our midfielders did something truly progressive and positive of getting on the ball, being confident with it, turning their man, and getting us pointing in the right direction and attacking forward. And from there, the midfield came into the game. You know, McAllister was a bit shaky under possession, building out from the back in the first 10, 15 minutes. I thought Szoboszlai and Gakpo both were fairly anonymous for the first 15 minutes or so. And then we got that bit of a wake-up call. I mean, also need to mention 8 minutes, Alisson takes a yellow card. You know, he's coming out of his box. He seems like he gets his foot caught in the ground. He ends up taking the man down. That's a good one to take. But we responded to the mistake. We responded to how completely lackadaisically we were playing. And the team collectively, I think, in between the 15-minute mark and when we scored, really started to get a foothold in the game. Those small, short passes started coming off. We started doing the simple things correctly again. And then all of a sudden, like, you're getting Trent playing the ball into Diaz, and there's a flurry of shots in the box. Bournemouth throwing bodies everywhere, and then it's corner, and we start building up the pressure on it. Just before the goal, Anthony takes a yellow card. Great applause break from all the people at Anfield today for the worker who tragically lost his life at the Bramley Moore Docks project for Everton's new stadium. And shortly after that, Trent slides Jota in. Jota cuts it back to the penalty spot into that danger zone. And Luis Diaz, what a brilliant little move. Well,
and it was pure instinct. It was just like flicked it up and bang. It was you see Firmino do that stuff all the time. You know, that's what a street footballer does. A street footballer does. You know, I always expected him to take that on the half term, spin, and get a shot off with his left. And I'd say that's what the centre back thought as well. But caught them both napping. It was a brilliant finish, and it was so deserved because we were absolutely right on top at that point. And apparently, that's the first time since. Put it in the chat, and Chris can't answer it, but that's the first time in how long that someone has scored the opening goal in the first game and the second game of the season for us.
Ooh.
And who was the last person to do it?
Who was the last person to score the opening goal?
Chris cheated. Okay. Chris cheated. It was the 13-14 season. It was Daniel Sturridge.
Well, Chris is a filthy cheater when it comes to these sorts of things. But, I mean, we can't even be sure he's got the right answer. He's got a history.
He has a history. Let's be fair. But no, look, I mean, he was really good all game. He was lively. He was at it. He was a constant threat. Max Aarons didn't know what to do with him. He just was taking up positions that the fullback couldn't follow him, the centre backs couldn't go to him, and the midfielders couldn't get out to him. He was really, really, really difficult to play against today, and he wasn't the only one. I mean, Jota had a shaky first half, probably first half of the first half. His touch was off. He couldn't. The link-up play just wasn't working. It wasn't clicking. But once it started to click, he improved as the game went on, and he just got better and better, more confident. I mean, you still got to think this is the first home game of the season, second game. And you're playing with a brand new midfield, you know, that have only literally had glorified training sessions and one meaningful game away at Chelsea. So everyone is still learning about how each other moves and where to be and all that stuff. But at 1-1, I was like, yeah, that was unreal. You know, it was exactly what we deserved. And I just felt from then on, get a lead, just get ahead and finish it off, because we were managing Bournemouth at this stage. We contained them pretty much, and we were suffocating them in their own half as well. Every time they got out, it was a rushed pass to get out, and we were mopping it up and going back and going at him again and again and again. It was non-stop. You know, it was compared to last week, when you look at the difference in the possession and how we managed the game and how we were playing against Chelsea, that was a polar opposite in that first half. Dodgy first 10, 15 minutes, but after that, it was just pure suffocation. And eventually, the pressure just told. You know, it was always going to come.
Yeah, completely. I didn't mark down of when in the first half it happened, but I think Bournemouth weren't helped a lot by, it looked like Philip Billing did pick up some sort of a knock, and it seemed to kind of take him out of the game, because he was great when they beat us 1-0 at their place last season, and he has the ability, just almost through his physical size, to be a real presence in the midfield. But once our guys got into the game, we slowly started to take over. And yeah, like there was a point before and after the goal that Luis Diaz was everywhere. He was electric. He was popping up all over, and Gakpo was taking up really good positions and overlapping him out on the left to make sure that we still had that width. But just he's obviously skilled on the ball, and the defenders know that. And you can see when he starts to size up his fullback, it's a bit like what Sadio had. You know, slow the ball down and just go, I'm going to do something. You know, can you figure out what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, and can you keep up with me even if you know where I'm going?
Yeah, the answer is always going to be no, because he's lightning quick. He's lightning quick. But look, you get to the second goal and the penalty, and it's all Dominic Szoboszlai. Dominic Szoboszlai. That chop back on the edge of the box, forcing a defender. Again, defender panics. That's all it is. It's the defender just panics and sticks a lazy leg out, and he goes over. It's a penalty all day long. And up steps Mo. And look, at the end of the day, he missed his last penalty against Bournemouth. He gets this one on target at least, but it was a poor penalty. It was a really poor penalty. It wasn't in the corner. He telegraphed it pretty much, and the keeper got a save on it, but Salah followed it in and knocked it in. You're 2-1 up. And it's like a big sigh of relief. It's like, okay, now we can just manage everything from here. Yeah. I mean, I honestly can't get over how good Dominic Szoboszlai was.
Yeah, well, I think the second,
cannot get over how good he was.
Yeah, the second half, like from winning that penalty onwards, he was just, to me, he was the standout player in the game for us, and it's so exciting of just the power that he runs the ball with. I like to think that Mo was just trying to recreate a Xabi Alonso Champions League final penalty with that, you know, just a poor penalty that saved.
He doesn't need to do that. He really doesn't.
Yeah, he should just put it in. There's a lot of other players that could potentially want to take that penalty job off of him. Like Alexis McAllister's got a good record on penalties. Dominic Szoboszlai is a good set piece taker as well too. Like Mo can't be missing penalties. Like this is too many now. Like what, his last 3 in the league he's missed, or 3 out of the last 4 in the league he's missed. So that is not very good at all. But I think we just should talk about Dominic Szoboszlai for a little bit, Kev, because
stick at people in the chat. What are the guys in the chat think? Because, like, I mean, Szoboszlai getting a bit of stick for what Kane has been praised for. What? It wasn't a dive.
He went down a little softly. He
felt contact.
He's making sure the ref gives it. I think is what that action is.
He engineered the contact. The chop back forced the defender to commit. And it's like, if you're stupid enough to put your leg there, then I'm just going to take advantage of it. If the ref doesn't want to give it, that's fine. But for me, that was a stonewall penalty, and it was well won. You know, it was probably as easy a decision as the referee had in the game today. And I don't get why it was gone to VAR for 3 or 4 different replays. I just thought that was a stone water for me.
It felt like one of those situations where if Szoboszlai had tried to stay on his feet and managed to kind of regain possession and then, you know, kicks the ball and it goes just wide, they're never going to bring it back and give a penalty. No. Like, it's one of those ones where you have to go down. You have to force the referee's hand to make that decision. He's either got to come over and do the big hand wave and let everybody know that he doesn't think it's a penalty, or he's got to give it. And he got taken out. I mean, Rothwell just clatters him in his standing leg. There you go. So we get that lead, and I mean, from there, I thought it was plain sailing, and I really, really liked it. I saved this comment from LBO here that there's some emoji stuff there, but it says, lads, if Gerrard and Zidane had a child, it would be Szoboszlai. I mean,
all right, kind of wind that back in a small bit, because look, he's done nothing. He's done nothing yet in the game. He's done nothing. But
it's still
you're
a kid.
looking at
it's
him,
not an adult child.
He's 22 years of age. And all of the things that were worrying me about him playing in the center of midfield at the start of the season, and from what I've seen of him before, was his engine of getting back, getting up and down, and his ability to be switched on defensively. That was my only worry. Going forward, not a problem. Technically, he is as good as anything out there. Can run with the ball, has a shot, has a great eye for a pass. He's silky smooth. He's strong. But I was worried about going the other way. And those fears are starting to be alleviated a little bit more now. The more and more he plays the position, the stronger he's going to get.
Ooh, here's a, I like this comment from Jono. He says, this Leipzig 8 is what we thought the last Leipzig 8 was going to be. And
oh, yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. It's extremely exciting, and I completely agree with you, because I thought out of the two new midfield signings, obviously before Endo, in McAllister and Szoboszlai, I thought McAllister looked brighter in the preseason. Like, he seemed like he knew the system, and Szoboszlai, you know, he was kind of on the fringes. He wasn't really taking control of the game. But this game, to me, was him taking control of the ball in the middle of the park and picking up the ball on that half turn in between the defensive and the middle third and just driving past players. And he's got this gorgeous move he does where he just lets the ball run past him and then does a little half turn on it. And it completely takes the defenders out of it. Like, they bite for it it's like Thiago's little shoulder thing that he does. Like, the defenders just can't help but react to it.
It's exactly the same. But look, we get to halftime, 2-1 up. I was annoyed with the first 10 minutes, but I was relaxed about it because I just didn't see a way that Bournemouth were going to get back into it.
Well, the reaction was so much better, wasn't it? Like, as opposed to what we've seen in the past, there was no point where I felt, even before we scored the goals, that we weren't going to get back into this game and get into the lead in this game. Now, obviously, hindsight's 20/20 and all that, but I have this stuff.
I know you. Yeah, you were. In fairness, I've got the messages as well. You were pretty much relaxed. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and games like this, like, if throughout a season, unless you're gonna put together, 100-point undefeated season, you're going to have moments where you make mistakes in games, and it's just a matter of trying to mitigate the amount of points that you lose from those mistakes. And so today was such a mistake. The first 10-15 minutes was just mistake ridden and a disaster, but we completely came out of that. We go into halftime, we're ahead, we've got the lead, everything's looking good, no changes at the halftime. And as much as I was disappointed with how poorly we started the first half, I was overjoyed with how we started the second half, Kev. Our press from the front was so strong.
It was, but Bournemouth did get in. 49, I've got it here, 49th minute. Semenyo shrugged off Konate and McAllister and got a shot that just went over the crossbar. So the threat was still there. And it always is going to be. Look, you're playing in the Premier League. Premier League sides are going to have efforts on goal. They're going to test your keeper. It's just limiting them to those kind of shots from distance. You don't mind that so much. But, yeah, we were better in the second half at the start of it. Salah was here. A tame shot by Salah allows Neto to drop down and gather the ball in the near post, just as it seems that Bournemouth will go 2 goals behind. Gakpo slipped his teammate through the low pass, and the Egyptian winger was indecisive in his finish. Mo was kind of like that all game, wasn't he? He was like neither here nor there. He was good in patches. There were certain things that he did was good, but that one just before the incident we'll come on to in a minute, to go 3-1 up, you expected to put his foot through that, and he did. He was neither here nor there with it. It was, I mean,
that ball came from that really strong period in the first, well, basically up until the red card, where our press from the front was working so well, so they had to hoof it long because our forwards were harrying them. And kudos for Iraola and setting his Bournemouth team up to consistently. I don't think at any point really resorted to hoofball. They were consistently trying to
more up front. They didn't go direct.
Exactly. And I mean, Dominic Solanke is also a pretty good target man as well.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah, the whole game they were trying to play their football. So kudos to Bournemouth for it. And I hope that they can stay up because, the more teams that play this type of football is better. I'd like to see us play against teams that actually want to play as opposed to trying to break down a super low block with 9 guys in the box all the time. But the ball floats into midfield, and I think it's Mo wins the first ball. He lays it off. And then, the chance that Semenyo had a minute or so before Mo's chance, it was the same sort of thing where the ball gets cut out, but it just ricochets to the attacking team. And that ball falls to Mo, and it's like, you just have to score. He has to score there. It's poor.
It is, yeah. Let's just get on to it then. The red card, Alexis McAllister. Two balls there. 2 players go for it. He's over the ball. His studs are up. He catches him on the shin, and the ref instantly just stops play. Red card. The ref right there. He sees it, and it's one of those that once the ref gives it and he explains to the VAR what he saw, the VAR will come back to him and say, "I can confirm that's what I saw." That's the end of it. That it's one of those that never gets overturned in a month of Sundays because he did catch him late. He did catch him high. His studs were up, and he mistimed it. He didn't get the ball. Shit happens, and I as long as refs are consistent with it throughout the season, fine with it. But I honestly looked at it, I thought that's a yellow card at work. Well, I thought it was a foul. It's a yellow card. There was no force in it. It wasn't excessive force. It wasn't intent. He didn't go to ground. But look, if that's the bar that they want to set, then be consistent. And when that happens throughout the season, give red cards for it. I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it, as long as they're going to be consistent with it. If they're not, then there's hell to pay, because as Antiocho puts out there, shout out to the officials once again, Tierney and Katsidis on VAR duty. This is getting ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's nothing to do with VAR. The VAR will confirm what the referee on the pitch saw, and once the referee says what he saw, and this is why I'm giving a red card. He's not going to say, "Oh, I didn't see what you just confirmed that I saw." So, I thought it was a yellow, but that's what happened. So, and you got anyone who watched any of our shows recently, when it comes to referees, I'll go in on them like a ton of bricks. But I can see why it was given. 100%, I can see why it was given. And my only thing with referees in general is consistency. And as long as they're consistent in their decisions, I don't think there's going to be an argument. The only question I'm going to have is, because it wasn't violent conduct, it wasn't, is it going to be a 3-game ban? I get what you're saying. When there's a 50-50 ball, both players have a right to lift their feet. They do. But if you catch your opponent while you're doing that, you're running the risk of a red card. It's as simple as that. It's a 50-50 ball. Either you got to go and win it, or you go and win it with your studs down.
Yeah, I mean, you and Chris said that you saw a replay that kind of made it look much less of a contentious decision. The 1 or 2 replays that I got on my feed, it looked incredibly harsh. Like, it just looked like 2 players going for the ball at the same time. Their guy gets there just a little bit before. I think it was Christie that he fouled. Gets there a little bit before. It doesn't seem like the foot is that high on his shin. Like, it looks like it's just into the ankle sort of thing. I thought it was unbelievably harsh. And when VAR doesn't even really delay, there's usually a good chance that, I might need to see another couple of replays. So I'm going to withhold too much judgment on it. But I mean, I think what you said there about the consistency of the referees is the important piece. And you can definitely rely on them, Kev. They are going to be consistent this season.
Oh,
consistently.
They're going to give us a show
awful.
They're going to give us a Thursday night show all season long.
Exactly.
Under was asking me there in a follow-up, what do you expect him to do? Then, you're not going to pull out players aren't going to get pulled out of tackles. That's when they're
getting hurt.
Going to get hurt. but you have to either acknowledge the fact that what I'm doing, if I mistime this, I am going to get sent off and pull out, or make sure you don't go with your studs up. It's as long as that's the way they're going to referee games, then that's how they're going to have to play. They're going to have to play to what referees are looking for. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and Chris
that's it. If he gets the ball before the player, it might be a yellow card. But
and then Anthony Boylan says you normally see that challenge end with the opposition player kicking the bottom of the studs. Just because the ball was higher, it was into his leg. So I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's somewhat reminiscent of the Antoine Griezmann one in the Champions League from a few years ago, where it just looks like a kind of regular football foul, but then you can see one angle where it's like, oh geez, yeah, he really put the cleats into his leg there, and we just don't want that. You're going to end up with players getting hurt. So I mean, it's a harsh decision, but I'm okay with it because it's keeping a running theme going here. This is now 2 years in a row where we've had a South American player making their home debut for Liverpool and receiving a straight red card. Because, of course, last year we had Darwin Núñez giving a nice headbutt to Joachim Andersen of Crystal Palace. And this year it's Alexis McAllister with a high boot on Ryan Christie. I think his first name is Ryan. And then just like last year, we score with 10 men. Well, I thought we were pretty damn sharp as soon as after we went down. Like the shape didn't change massively. Yeah.
We look brilliant.
Again,
as soon as we went down to 10, we were just so threatening.
Yeah, again, the goal comes through fantastic work from Dominic Szoboszlai. The ball's out on the left, and Luis Diaz, gorgeous switch, floats the ball out to Trent on the right. Great touch by Trent, opens up into the middle of the field. He lays it off to Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai gets a heck of a shot off, down low to Neto. He should probably do better. Instead, he spills the ball back into the path, and Johnny on the spot, Diogo Jota, slots it home. Almost can't miss from there. I mean, fantastic striker play from Jota of being in the exact right position he needs to be in. But, I mean, Szoboszlai, I believe that counts as an assist for him, doesn't it? The
shot rebound, I don't know. We'll see. Anyone who's got him in their fantasy football team will find out soon enough. Yeah. But Jota's instincts to follow that in is, as Chris was saying to me earlier on, is pure Robbie Fowler. It's pure striker. You know, it's what a striker does, a poacher. You know, someone who's got that instinct in the box to just in case. You know, and it settled everything down after the red card because, we're down to 10 men. We had to reorganize. We brought in, we were about to make changes to change everything up. And to go 3-1 up, to have that extra cushion was like, because in fairness, we were still managing Bournemouth really well. We were still causing loads of problems for them, even with the 10. So, it was just proper. It was a proper goal. It was a proper Klopp goal, Klopp team goal, to be honest, where you suffocate aside, you pressure, get a shot off, and follow it in. It was lovely. I loved it. I loved everything about that goal, to be honest.
And I mean, jumping out of the chronology of it is Alisson makes a save very similar to the one that Neto spilled back into Jota's path later in the game, and it goes out for a corner. You know, he's just that much better at being a goalkeeper than Neto is. Neto didn't have a bad game or anything like that. But then, and this is what we were all here for, Kev, on the 67th minute or 62nd minute, Cody Gakpo departs, and on comes Wataru Endo. And within 3 minutes, he's made 2 tackles in the middle of the park.
I mean, the thing is, the news came about an hour before kickoff that his work permit had come through, and that he was available. By all accounts, he had a training session yesterday, and 4 days ago he didn't know this deal was happening. So, in some ways, it's probably the best thing in the world for him, because he didn't have time to think about it. He didn't have a week to think about it and have it in the back of his head that, okay, I'm going to Newcastle, I'm going to be starting, and I've got to take all of this information in. It was like, no, you got a training session. You have a chat with the manager about 20 minutes before the game, just in case anything happens. We're going to bring you on. And here you are, down to 10 men, 3-1 lead, see it out. And as you said, first thing he did was back up Diaz on the left-hand side and won the ball back on high press. That was his first action as a Liverpool player. Yeah. Now, he was neat, he was tidy, he was calm on the ball. He took it in tight spaces and gave it. He did the simple things really well. He hasn't got an ounce of pace in his poor legs. He has no pace whatsoever. I'd fancy Gav in a straight race, honestly. The guy has absolutely no pace whatsoever. But in his head, positionally, he's very good. He won a couple of clearing headers as well. I think he's going to be a very solid player for us. A very steady 7 out of 10. He'll do your job. He's exactly what he says on the tin.
Yeah.
He's all heart. He's technically sound, and he's got a good vision, and he knows where to be. He's got a good sense of spatial awareness. It's almost like he's been doing this position for the last 10 years, and he knows it inside out. Who knew?
Yeah.
But the only thing is, the one thing that people need to get out of their head is the idea that he's a centre-back, or he can revert to centre-back and he can do this. He can't. He hasn't played at centre-back since he was playing in the J2 league, in the J1 league in Japan years ago. He cannot play as a centre-back. No way under the face of this earth could this man ever be involved as a centre-back for Liverpool Football Club. But he can definitely start games in a 6, 100%. And he will allow so many other players to play around him. He's going to be a fantastic signing. I think when we look back at the end of the season, we'll look at this signing as a steady Eddie, does what he says in the tin. It's exactly what we need. And I think we're seeing the potential here for a cult hero for the next 3-4 years. I think he could be absolutely brilliant for us.
Yeah, I obviously was watching him a little bit more closely than I would a normal 60-second minute substitution coming onto the pitch, being his very first appearance for the club and never having, to my memory, seen him play before. So I was really trying to pay attention to where he was and what his positioning was going to be, how far he was going to allow himself to get forward. And I mean, yeah, turning the ball around, starting a nice counterattack, tackle, gets the ball under pressure, turns it around. That's all well and good. You mentioned the clearing headers that he won. That was my only kind of down tick that I had on his performance, was that he had 2 headers, which he won, and he does have a very statistically has quite a good aerial dual win percentage. But he played 2 of them in our box right back into the middle of the park.
Yeah, they were both central.
Yeah, which is exactly what stung us last week against Chelsea.
Exactly.
A poor header that falls into the middle of the park. So but I mean, again, first performance for the team. It's gonna get better from here, I think so. And I mean, it draws the question, Kev, because the rest of the game I thought we did very professionally in terms of just seeing it out. So
yeah,
we're going to talk about some of the injury concerns that happened there. Trent seemed like he picked up a little bit of a knock. He was taken off for Joe Gomez. Diogo Jota came out for Harvey Elliott. I thought they both had quite good little cameos towards the end there. Joe's still looking for that elusive first goal. Harvey Elliott came on, and he really seemed to be kind of tripping over the spaces that Szoboszlai was taking up on the pitch.
Trying to be in,
Yeah, they had 2-3 times where their wires were obviously crossed, where, thought he was going to zig and he zagged, or vice versa sort of thing. And the one of them leads to them having almost a chance presented to him on a silver platter. Endo gets another great tackle in there. We make a couple of more. No, those were the end of our sub. 84th minute, Alisson with an amazing save. I don't know.
2 really good saves.
I don't know how the young Kluivert, he should score that.
He should. But Alisson was. It was like split personality. Second half he was very good. He swept up. He when we went down to 10, he played as a sweeper, and his distribution was like, maybe it was just the rocket up his backside that I can't make a mistake here. I'm outside my box. I'm on a yellow card. I can't make a mistake. And he didn't. His shot stopping has never been in question. He's a brilliant shot stopper. And, when you're down to 10, that chance that he had that they cut back onto the penalty spot was just so blatantly obvious that was going to happen. It was almost like a car crash happening in slow motion. It was like, no! It was one of those. And you could just see him peeling off, and no one went with him, and he got the shot off. But it was a great save. And he made the second save later on. But I don't know if anyone in the chat can spot if did Trent have a knock for that injury? Because it looked like either he might have rolled his ankle or because he was pointing to the bottom of his ankle rather than anything around his Achilles or anything. So I'm just hoping that it's a kick, that he might have had a bit of a knock. The Diaz one looks a bit more worrying because I don't think he had a really good run. He went running beyond the centre backs, and a couple of minutes later is when he started to feel his groin. And look, we saw last weekend that an awful lot of players picked up injuries because the first few weeks of any season, it's always intense. You can't replicate the intensity of a match in preseason. You can't replicate that. So you always run the risk of players getting injured in the first 3-4 weeks of a season, So the Diaz one worries me because of the type of injury it looks like it could be. It's like groin strain. But the Trent one, I think, is just precautionary. I think he was moving around. They tried to give him a bit of time, couldn't run it off. So if it was ligaments or anything like that, they wouldn't have messed about. They'd have whipped him off straight away. So I think he probably tried to run it off and couldn't.
Yeah,
but he has one. I think is one that we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Well, Sam Tandy's trying to maintain some positivity after a win. He says, I think the Diaz injury was just through fatigue. In my opinion, he ran the whole game. And then Anthony Boylan is asking the question that none of us should even allow to leave our lips because we don't want to think about it. But if Trent is injured, my fears for the season will come true within 2 weeks. What do you do when Trent is injured? And I don't know the answer to that because I feel like
easy enough. You do what we did today. You revert back to a 4-3-3 to play your standard 4-3-3, and you're more than likely going to play Joe Gomez at right back, who's not going to advance as much as what Robertson will do on the left. You'll play a standard normal 4-3-3.
I just fear, and I guess this is maybe a silver lining for McAllister being banned potentially for the next 3 games, is I'm concerned about how the players that are new to the system, McAllister and Szoboszlai, obviously we've been training this system, this inverted fullback positioning, all the teamwork that they've been doing in practice, in the training sessions, has been built for this system. So to just say, we'll just revert back to the old 4-3-3, like this is a situation where if we hadn't sold the players that we sold, that is a lot more of an option because you're talking about guys that have played before in this system. So I'm not sure.
They all play international football. They all played 4-3-3s. The lads at Dortmund, the lads at Brighton, every side in the last 5 years plays a 4-3-3 or a variant of it. It's not a rocket science system. If you're playing as a fullback in a 4-3-3, this is what you do. If you're playing in a 3-man midfield and you're the left centre mid or the right centre mid, this is what you do. It's not overthinking it, and it's something that we should be able to, that we need to have in our back pocket. That not every game, like as we showed it the first 5 minutes of this game, that inverted role where Trent was taking the ball off the keeper in that position in the first 5 minutes of the game was the most bonehead, stupid move you've ever seen in your life. So there are going to be games where we have to. I like the fact that we went 4-4-1 or on the red card. It shows the fact that we can play a 4-4-2. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever this side cannot play in a 4-4-2 system or 4-2-4 or 4-2-3, whichever way you want to put it. It's not as if a standard 4-3-3 system is not alien to these guys. When they go away when the Dutch players go away to Holland or when Hungary they play 4-5-1. Holland play 4-3-3 or a variant or 3 at the back sometimes. playing different systems in different ways isn't alien to these players. It's very much a case of this is what we're going to do we've got a week to prepare for Newcastle. This is how we're going to prepare for Newcastle, and you just work on that.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned about the in-game. Like, I thought the change towards the end, I mean, we bring Gomez on for Trent, so that's a more defensive change just on its own. And then Tsimikas and Darwin come on for Diaz and Mo Salah. So we end up with 2 left backs on the pitch, 3 center halves on the pitch. It's a very defensive formation to see the game out.
See it out.
I'm a big fan of that. What I'm concerned about is if we have to go with it from the start. And
I think I don't know how they're going to do. Well, the thing is, you hope now that Stefan is back on the bench, that after another week of training, he's available. The rumor, well, from what I've read anyway, Curtis Jones was literally just a knock in training. Just nothing serious. He'll be back for the week. He'll be back for next week. It's we'll have to see. And then you've got Thiago isn't far away. The question, as you said, is what are they going to do when it comes to does Endo start now? Does Endo come in after a week's work? And I think he does. I'd be amazed if he doesn't.
Yeah.
But I'd have no problem with Endo coming in with Szoboszlai on the right-hand side of him and Gakpo on the left if we're going to Newcastle, and that's how we want to go and play. No problem with that.
Where's that comment? Speaking of that, right here, Anthony Boylan from about a half hour ago. He says he will have to play with Endo next week. It will be the Domo Arigato midfield. So take a bow on that one. But Chris Brack did throw up here a comment from Klopp after the game on Trent. He said, he told me he got a kick, pretty painful. That's why we changed him. We hope he'll be okay. So
if that's all that is, that's fine. You don't mind that.
Yeah, so that's some positive news coming out of that. And I mean, obviously, we've got an away trip to St. James's Park to play Newcastle coming up next weekend. We'll see how they get on today. They've got a pretty tough game coming up this evening against Manchester City. And I'm not even sure. Does anybody know what the score is in the?
It's 0-0. It's 0-0 at the minute.
I'm actually shocked that game is 0-0 because Spurs and United.
Before we go. Who's your man of the match? An honorable mention.
Man of the match for me is Szoboszlai. I thought Szoboszlai was fantastic, and I would give honorable mention to Luis Diaz. I don't think he sustained it enough to get the main nod, but I think in the patches where he was our best player and most dangerous player, I think those were the most important moments of the match. So, but yeah, Szoboszlai was poof.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I thought once they got over their first 15 minutes, the centre back pairing was good. So in general, Van Dijk played really well. Once, from about minute 18 onwards. But yeah, the only correct answer is Dominic Szoboszlai. What a debut, what a debut at Anfield. He'll remember that one. If he can live up and throw in those levels of performances on a consistent basis, then, what a steal. What a steal. And in fairness, I didn't think McAllister played badly in anything that he did today. I thought he was okay. He needs to crisp up his passing a bit. The only thing I thought on a few of them today, actually, some of the passing was really soft, slow.
Yeah. Especially in that first 15.
They need to quicken their passing up. But in general, look, you take your 3-1 and you move on. You got 4 points on the board from 2 games. Tough away game at Chelsea. You got off to a winning start at home. You can't really ask much more than that. It's just disappointing with the injuries at the end, but it is what it is. We move.
Yep. Exactly. And I mean, we've still got a little bit more of the silly season left to go. We're at least down to under 2 weeks left. So thank goodness gracious for that we can finally slam this window closed. But yeah, altogether, I think you got to take a lot of positives out of today's game. And for me, I think the biggest positive I'm taking from this game is just the reaction, because this would not have been the case last season. I think somebody before we even got started said that we would have lost that game last year. And there's a very strong case to be made for that. This was not the Bournemouth of 9-0 from last season.
No, far from it.
This is a very, very different team. Scott Parker's dirty fingerprints have been wiped completely clean by 2 different managers now. And that's a good win for us. And we just need to build on it from there. So good early signs. I'm very happy with Endo's first game. I think he's going to do just a quite good job for us in the going forward.
See, this is where the problem's going to come. As Chris Barker, look, we'll guarantee you we're going to chat about this next week, 100%. Apparently, there was just a tackle in the game that's happening now between Spurs and Manchester United. Porro, shin-high tackle on Bruno Fernandes, miles worse than McAllister, not even a card. And that, for me, is going to be a huge problem. You know, it's
consistently
just
fucking awful, Kev. They're going to be consistently awful and providing consistent fodder for us on Thursdays. So definitely come check out our new show we got running on Thursdays, where we look back at the games that went on in the weekend and talk about some of the big talking points coming up from there. Kev's show, regular bunch of other co-hosts on there with a revolving door of guests coming through. So Joe from Albion Obsessed was great to have on Thursday. Big win for Brighton today.
Yeah, I got Kev, aka Clutch FIFA, coming on next Thursday night. Manchester United fan, but a Manchester United fan with a pretty level head, which is good. Knows his football. So, and he watches absolutely bucket loads. Yeah, absolutely bucket loads. So looking forward to catching up with Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. So the score is finished. Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 1. We've got 4 points from the first available 6. The season's off to a winning start at home. Oh, I would be absolutely remiss if I did not. I'm sure you agree. That new stand needs to get finished immediately because it is gigantic. That upper tier at the Anfield Road end is enormous looking on television. Like, we've been seeing the daily updates from the guy with the drone that's been flying around the construction site sort of thing, and you kind of think you got a feel for it, but it's the familiarity of the camera angles at Anfield of
yeah, it's massive. Don't worry, I will be we might have a little chat about that. Don't worry.
So yes, thank you guys for joining us all on here. Like I said, please hit the thumbs up button and like the show. Subscribe to the channel for us. All these things just help us keep ticking over and keep everything free on the LFC Daytrippers. Super easy.
Link for the charity. Link for the charity is in the description.
Yeah, in the show description, whether you're watching us live on YouTube, watching us after the fact on YouTube, listening as a podcast download on whatever podcast platform you're on, if you check out the show description or go to the LFC Daytripper on any of the social media accounts that they have, you'll see the link to a GoFundMe page. It's raising money for 12 Dublin women that play the GAA that are running the Dublin Marathon. They're raising money for breast cancer. We're trying to help them hit their fundraising target of 20,000 euros. We are getting closer and closer to it. There's been fantastic work done for months and months and months raising this money for these women that are running in. It's coming up quick, October, isn't it?
It's October, yeah. It's only a few months away, and it's just a case of just get it over the line now. So if you can donate, please, you know the routine now. If you can donate. It'd be fantastic. If you can't donate, copy the link, share it onto your social medias, put it on your Twitter, put it on Facebook, chuck it into WhatsApp groups, and direct them our way, and we'll explain what it is. No problem.
Yeah.
But just share it as much as humanly possible. Yeah. And we'll get this over the line. We're not far away now, only a couple of grand away.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure, if you're watching us live, to hit that notification bell, because there's a good chance that Gav and Emmett might be going live right from the thick of the action. They're both in Liverpool this weekend with some broadcasting here. So who knows when he's just going to pop up with the show from some watering hole in Liverpool, but it'll be real good crack. He's done live chats with Dom from the Road End Pod and Courtney Neary I've seen already. So go and check those out on the YouTube channel. But mostly, thank you guys for joining us. This is the second of what could be potentially 65 full-time Reds this year if we
God willing. God willing.
I'll need another couple of notebooks if we're playing that many games, but we've got a fair few more of these to go yet, and we're going to be here with you guys for every single one of them. So thanks for joining us. Keep an eye out for any shows coming from Gav over the weekend. We got the Fatback 4 definitely is coming for you guys on Sunday night, as always. Thank you, Kev. I've been Matt. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Up the Reds.